Hello and welcome back to the Interview24. Today we have a very special guest, Matilda Dimovska, UNDP resident representative in Uzbekistan. Thank you for joining us today.
Assalamu alaikum. Glad to be with you.
So tell our viewers what is the HDR about and what are the key messages it sends?
It starts with saying that the world is in a worry. Mentioning the COVID pandemic, which continues, the war in Ukraine and elsewhere, the increasing suffering of people, human suffering of people, shifting geopolitical order, strained multilateral system, and record-breaking temperatures, fires, storms, all raising the bell from the planetary systems. So all of these are painting a picture of worry, of uncertainty, of uncertain times and unsettled lives. Uncertainty is not something new to the humanity, but now we are facing a new uncertainty complex, in fact, that has never been seen before in the human history at the scale and speed that was never experienced. So we live with in a world of new forms of uncertainties that are interacting with each other in a new way. That is the key message of the report. So one of the frustrating ironies of the times that we are living, that we are having more power to control our future, while it seems that at the same time we have more or less control over it. So what is happening on? And how the broad lens of the human development can help us better understand and respond to this complex of uncertainties that the world is facing, and to this paradox of a progress with uncertainty. This is the topic of this year's human development.
Regarding the complexity of uncertainties, layering and interacting, could you explain more about that?
The world has seen wars and pandemics even before, but never they have been happening against a backdrop of such a planetary change that is happening at the moment, and which is so dangerous, and the political polarization. For example, as we know, today human activity is impacting the planetary systems in a very dangerous, unprecedented scales and scope and speed. And this is, in fact, altering the fundamental frame of reference in which the humanity has been operating for a millennia. And therefore, a sweeping social transformation is needed to alter that pressure. For example, transformation into the energy, into the food production, into the transportation. And that is so much needed. But these transformations also come with their own challenges and all costs. For example, however welcome is the renewable energy technology, it comes with the environmental costs and the risk for the labor market. Political polarization is on a rise globally. Less than 30% of the people believe that other people can be trusted. And this adds to the risk of violence, to the lack of trust, and diminishes the scope for a collective action. Technologies are sometimes being misused. For example, artificial intelligence and social media sometimes are being used to spread the information and wrap up the thinking of the people, understanding and their ability for a collective action. So these crises, these uncertainties are piling up on each other, feeding each other, and come with a complexity of uncertainties that are resulting into the twin paradox: progress with insecurity and progress with polarization.
So what should we be doing in the face of increasing and complex uncertainties?
First of all, the most important is that we don't allow that the worry prevents us from acting. So we must focus on tackling the social deficits, the deficits in the human development that makes it difficult to address, to thrive in the context of uncertainties. And we need to understand also one very important thing, that uncertainties are not equal. Sometimes they are hitting women, vulnerable groups, more harder and faster than the others. So inequality of the insecurity on uncertainty is equally important to be aware. So therefore the report argues that to navigate the uncertainty at the scale and scope that we are facing today, it is important to focus on policies have to be in place to focus on the 3 I's, we call it investment, insurance and innovation, and on the social context, so that allows the institutions and decision making to be creative, but also nimble at the same time.
Could you tell us more about how countries should address these uncertainties, and please elaborate on the 3 I's, investment, insurance and innovation mentioned in the report?
Thank you, and in fact this is the key question. One is to understand the situation, and the other is how to respond, and the report comes with such recommendations. Definitely policies that focus on the 3 I's, investment, insurance and innovation, will have a long way to go in addressing the challenges, in navigating these uncertainties and helping us thrive in the future. In the case of Uzbekistan, that would mean, in fact, continued investment in the renewable energy and its access to everyone, but also into its people, into the human capital that would be able to contribute to and lead that type of transition, continued transition. Insurance helps protect us from the contingencies of uncertainty of this type of world. The massive rise of social protection during the COVID-19 pandemic proved just like that, in fact, that it served as like a contingency plan for many, many people. But it also underscored that much more can be done and how little coverage there was before. So here in Uzbekistan, the government is doing a lot in this area. There are already efforts to revitalize, modernize the social protection system, and of course more can be done. For example, to do the effort to include the informal and other vulnerable insecure employments into the social system, or to integrate social protection system. And finally, the innovation. Innovation comes in many forms. It can be economic, technological, cultural, but it is so vital in responding to the uncertainties of the future. It will, in Uzbekistan, made the innovation its high priority time ago. So it's great to have that. The government has an important role to play in facilitating an environment where the innovation is seen as a continuous, constant effort by many. And in fact, innovation, as I said, is much more than a technology. Innovation can be done in social sectors, in other sectors. For example, involving the civil society into making sure that no one is left behind, or involving the private sector into reducing the environmental costs. These are the other ways of addressing the challenges of the world today.
In your opinion, what is the state of human development in Uzbekistan?
Well, the report gave also this response to this question. We were waiting for it. And I'm very pleased to say Uzbekistan continues its steady trend of steady Human Development Index improvement. It has been performing very well since the index has been introduced. Globally, for the first time in 32 years, as UNDP is calculating the Human Development Index, which, as we know, is measuring a nation's health, education and standard of living. So globally, in 32 years, we see for a second year in a row, it is now back at the levels of 2016, when we started working on the Sustainable Development Agenda, and it brought back many of the achievements that were made in the Sustainable Development Goals. A massive 90% of countries saw their Human Development Index drop in 2020 and 2021. And this is exceeding the number that has been seen as a regression, a decline, even during the global financial crisis. So it's great that Uzbekistan resisted in that decline and that continued its human development improvement. Uzbekistan remains being in the high human development category. It is now ranked at 101 place out of 191 countries and territories. It improved for almost 20%, the index for Uzbekistan, during the period 2021. Uzbekistan is no exception when it comes to being exposed to these global uncertainties of all kinds, and it will be, of course, essential to introduce and implement policies that address those complexities and uncertainties.
What do you hope policymakers in Uzbekistan will take from this report?
Despite the consistent gaps, consistent trend of improvement of the index, much work can be done to maintain, to sustain that trend. Further and deeper analysis of different dimensions of the human development and its index would, of course, be the starting point. But of course, that in general, of course, that Uzbekistan can benefit from continued and reshaped investments in nature-based developments and in its human capital, in its people, from consolidating the social protection system, both in the insurance systems in general, to refer to the one of the eyes, both being the social but also human rights, and also from accelerating innovations in many sectors, including in the governance sector, and thus to build a state more equitable, inclusive, and resilient society. I wish to finish by congratulating to Uzbekistan for its steady, solid performance in human development and in Human Development Index 2022. The example, the experiences of Uzbekistan are good practice to be followed by across the region and around the world.
Thank you very much for your time and the information you have provided to our channel. Thank you.
Rahmat.